What we're learning now is just something really straightforward this week, I think. Maybe something new in terms of periphrastic tenses, but we know the formula for it, and also a genitive absolute, which basically is a variation of the way that we use a participle. And then, of course, the perfect participle, which we've learned all the other forms, so perfect will be really straightforward with the reduplication, in this case of luo with the lambda and so forth. And it's fairly straightforward, as you can see: lelukos, lelukota, lelukoti, kotos, lelukoti, lelukotas, lelukotas, lelukoton, lelukoson, or excuse me, lelukoson. And then the feminine has that the upsilon in there that ends the stem, and so therefore it's going to go like first declension nouns like himero that end in a vowel or a row. So that form will be leluquia, leluquian, leluquias, leluquia, leluquiai, leluquias, leluquion, leluquiais. And then the neuter is fairly straightforward: lelucos, lelucos, lelucotos, lelucoti, lelucota, lelucota, lelucoton, lelucosin. So I think that is not much that I want to say on that in terms of how you use it. Having loosed and so forth, what we've learned about how the perfect tense is used, and then the perfect middle and passive really just takes on the form of adding with the sigma and menos aon, which is really like a sort of a second declension adjective that goes aon, or os aon, and so forth. So I won't say any more about that. We've covered that. I will mention now just the element of the genitive absolute, which is really, if you think about it on how we've understood the participles, as they have a connection with the main verb, and therefore when the subject of the main verb is in the participle, then it's fairly straightforward from that standpoint, just a question of translating it. The notion of genitive absolute comes from a word absolutus in Latin, which means loosed, so that the phrase is actually loosed off from the main verb, so that the noun that goes with the participle is not part of the either subject or object or indirect object of the main verb. As opposed to when the noun and the participle go together, as in his exelthon eiden. When he had come out, as a deponent from erkomai, it's a second aorist form here in terms of a present from a second aorist form with a verbal stem, and the translation would be what? When he had come out, he saw. In other words, then the ending on of the participle is then part of the subject then of the verb from orao, and so therefore they go together. But when you have the genitive absolute, then that's in a sense that is loosed off. And I've got an example here that I picked out: kai poriua menon autun ente hodo ipen tis prost auton. You can see there is the main verb, apen, and then you have just after it the indefinite pronoun tis, which is nominative masculine singular. So he said to him, or towards him, or to him. And then the question is, he said what? Well, now then we go back and we see this clause that's introduced here by Kai is sort of loosed off, separated, because you can't see anything in this that really says that the subject is going to be the antecedent from tis. In other words, it's literally going to be then, as you look, then you see auton, where what you've got this participle from poriumai, which is what? As they were going in the way, a certain man said to him. So you can see then how the the sense of the genitive absolute is loosed off from the main verb because the subject of the participle construction itself is not part of the main verb, and it takes it and it goes from there. Moving on to the periphrastic tenses, which are really quite straightforward in the sense of we use a helping verb like the verb to have or to be, and in this case we find that the verb aimi is used with different participles. So there's aimi with the present participle. I've given you just one example here from Mark 10:32. Kai ein proagon autos hoch Jesus. And there's your subject, Jesus. Now, there's this construction where you have the imperfect of the verb to be, aimi, here ein, and Jesus was going, proago, was going ahead of them. So you can see then the combination of an auxiliary verb, here the verb aimi, with the present participle. This is known as the periphrastic imperfect, which is the imperfect of the verb aimi and the present participle. And then there's the periphrastic future, and the periphrastic perfect. I'll give you an example. There is actually a periphrastic pluperfect as well, but I won't say anything more about that at this point. But I will mention the sort of famous phrase from Ephesians 2 verse 5 in terms of the periphrastic perfect. Chariti esti sesomenoi. By grace, there's the present tense of aimi, second person plural. By grace you have been saved. So we have there the perfect participle of sozo. So you can see how these are used together then, a combination of auxiliary verb, the verb to be here, aimi, with the participle forms.